Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So in this one, I'm going to be talking about Miami GP 2026. So it has been quite some time since the last race, like a month or something. And the next race, which will be in Canada, is like after few weeks as well. So we have got some time again. But yeah, let's talk about this one. So it's currently 1 a.m. right now. I just finished watching the race like 30 minutes ago. Like wrote all the stuff that I needed, and yeah, I'm making this video currently. I will cover the free practice, sprint qualifying, sprint race, and qualifying, and then the race. So yeah, let's start with the regulations that changed, by the way. So due to this long break, many teams brought a lot of upgrades to their cars as well. Most of which were from Ferrari, like they brought 11 upgrades or something. Then Cadillac as well with 7 or 9 upgrades, I think. Uh, McLaren and Red Bull also got like 7 upgrades. Most of the team got upgrades except the World Constructor Champions, who will be like at first position by the next race, Aston Martin. They have zero upgrades, like they barely managed to finish races. Why have they not brought any upgrades to this one? But you know what? Maybe covering up Epstein files takes quite some money. So yeah. Anyways, let's get back to the changes. So the first change was now the super clipping is changed from 250 kilowatts to 350 kilowatts, which is basically more deployment power for the drivers. So basically, they don't have to lift and coast that much. I mean, they still would have to do that thing. They also changed the energy recovery from 8 megajoules to 7 megajoules to minimize the lift and coast, Then the upgrades that I talked about, many teams brought their updates. So I guess Aston Martin has just given up currently. Like maybe they are targeting 2027 right now because they seriously need the upgrades. Even in the race, they treat it like practice sessions. Fernando was like, I don't know, 37 or 38 laps on mediums. That's crazy. Anyways, so yeah, let's get into the free practice. So, the free practice has also changed. So, earlier it was like only 1 hour of free practice session, but this time it was like 90 minutes. So, a lot of cars did like 30 plus laps in the free practice, around 40 as well. So, yeah, and they only got one practice because it was a sprint weekend, and I mean, uh, see, Max looked quite promising. So the standing was like Charles Leclerc was at first, then Max, then Oscar, and then Lewis. So after watching the free practice one, I was like, "Are we back? Is my goat back?" But I was like still holding back because I thought maybe teams are sandbagging or something, and it's just free practice. Not every team will show their true potential in this. So yeah, that happened. Kimi was P5 and George was P6. I thought like either Mercedes is sandbagging or the upgrades have finally caught up to them, but not really, as we will see in the race as well. But yeah, McLaren's upgrades are quite promising, even though once Mercedes gets their upgrade, I don't think they will stand a chance, but they have to maximize their points. So yeah, good for them. Their upgrades are working. So is Red Bull somewhat, I mean, they have reduced the gap from like half the gap, as Max said in the interviews. And by the way, if any of you remember, like during the last race, there was like talks of reporters canceling Max and not inter. None of that happened. People just moved on from that. So yeah, Max said that in the interview that they have like made improvements definitely, but they still have a long way to go. So yeah, that happened. The last 20 minutes of the free practice was like a bit overcrowded. So basically, they impeded Lando's lap and Lewis Hamilton's as well by Alex, I guess Alex or the Audi, either of them. Isaac was lacking in the free practice as well. Maybe the second seat curse is, catching up. But I mean, it's it's still a bit too soon to say that. But Isaac didn't have a great week either. Let's see what happens in Canada. So yeah, he didn't do great in the free practice, and there were a lot of lockups on turn 17 or turn 14. It was I'm not sure, but there was a lot of lockups from like every other driver. So yeah, that happened, but no major incidents, just some lockups. They went off track, and everything was quite all right. So yeah, that's it for free practice. Now let's talk about sprint qualifying. Let's talk about the sprint qualifying one. So in the SQ1, both the Cadillacs, Aston Martin and Ocon and Liam Lawson got disqualified. So now here's what happened. Uh, Liam was like uh, almost ready to get back in for SQ2 because there was investigation going on for impeding track limits or something, which could have basically given him a chance to go into SQ2. And yeah, that didn't happen, even though there was a breach and they got pushed back to P21 or something like that. I'm not really sure on the places. It feels like ages ago. By the way, if anyone noticed, this was a night race, at least from where I am, and I was like up at 2 a.m. watching this. So yeah, forgive me if I am a bit hazy on the details. But yeah, they got disqualified in SQ1. Then in SQ2, both the Williams, Audi, Behrman, and Arvid Littblad got disqualified. Now, see, McLaren were in the SQ3, and their upgrades were working pretty well. The positions were like Lando was at P1, Kimi P2, Oscar P3, Charles P4, Max P5. Now, see, I mean, it's just P5. He's not on podium or anything like that. But it was like Max was behind Gasly, behind Alpine the last few races. So, it's still good, looking quite promising that maybe, in the next race or whenever they bring the next big upgrade, Max might be on par with Mercedes or at least, on the podium. But yeah, it was looking promising for Max. So yeah, that happened. Then we saw that yes, it was Gabriel Bortoleto who got disqualified for the track limits or whatever it was basically. So yeah, he got disqualified, and Liam was quite pissed on the radio, like he got released into traffic or something like that. He was not happy, and yeah, a common Lance spin happened once, basically in SQ3, I guess, when Lando was on his first lap. He was going quite well, but yeah, Lance pinned and he had to abort that lap. And but yeah, he still got P1, so it didn't really matter that much. So that's mostly it for SQ1. I mean, sprint qualifying. Now let's get into the sprint race. So, by the way, I'm trying to keep this video short because the previous few videos were like 40 minutes, 30 minutes each. So, I'm trying to keep it somewhat around 20-25 minutes. So, yeah, it might feel a bit, rushed, but I'm trying to cover all the important things that happened in the race. And I guess in the end, I will tell you what I thought about stuff if anyone is interested in that. So, yeah. Anyways, let's get into the sprint. So sprint was like Lando Norris P1, Oscar Piastri P2, Charles Leclerc P3, George Russell P4, Max P5, Kimi P6, Lewis P7, and Gasly P8. So these were the points. Isaac was P9. He missed out again. Not a great week for Isaac. Bad free practice. Then sprint qualifying didn't go that well for him. Now in the sprint race, he missed out by 1 point. So it's not been great for Isaac so far. McLaren domination is back. I mean, especially in the sprint, even in the race as well, they did quite well. So, they took a break so long, they went back in 2025. So, yeah, Basically, it was smooth sailing for Mercedes. Lando was, quite comfortable in the first position. Didn't really have to race anyone once he got in front. Kimi had a poor start again, so he has had poor start like all the races that has been, taken place so far, and this was one of them as well. Kimi had track limit. All right, so this was the fun part. So Max was at sixth place, and George was ahead of him, and he was closing in on George. So Max fell behind a little, but he, caught up mostly, but he was still behind George, and he was like zero point 0.5 seconds or something. He was catching up. If there were like a few more laps, he might have had caught up to Russell, but he couldn't, and he was at sixth place. But now, luckily or unluckily, Kimi Antonelli had track limits, and the penalty was like 5 seconds, and Russell was 4 point some seconds behind him, and Max was zero point 0.5 seconds behind him. So Kimi dropped from fourth to sixth, and Max came fifth. The peak point of this sprint race was Max and Lewis wheel to wheel battle for like a lap or two, which was so good to see again, because it's been like either Max has a great car or Lewis has had a great car. I mean, Lewis hasn't really had a great car except for this season, but they were not battling each other that much. This felt like 2021 race. So yeah, that was quite good. Even though it wasn't for long, it was like 1 or 2 laps, and Max passed him. Lewis didn't have a great race either. He's having some sort of issue with the car, and he feels like the Charles is feeling more comfortable with the car due to some setup changes or whatever it is. So yeah, that was the peak of the sprint for me, I would say. And yeah, Audi was having a nightmare. Like in free practice, they didn't do great. In sprint qualifying, the car had some problems. Then even in the qualifying, as we'll see, Bortoleto had some problems. So in sprint, Nico didn't get to start. He was like on the formation lap, the brakes or whatever it was. Basically, it I think caught fire, or at least there was some smoke, and he had to bring the car back in. So yeah, Audi didn't have a great race week either. Lindblad had a DNF as well. Aston Martin is lagging because of course these geniuses didn't bring any upgrades. Now maybe they will bring in the upgrades next race or whatever, but come on. I mean, you are the ones in the need of these upgrades. You can't keep delaying these things. But yeah, I'm not a race engineer. I'm quite shit at physics actually. So what do I know? Yeah, that happened. And Cadillac's upgrades didn't do great because they were still battling with Aston Martin, which is not great sign. Williams were a little better, but they didn't really score any points. I mean, they did better than they used to do, but they didn't get any points in the sprint race. Then, yeah, Oscar Piastri had some problems with his car. He was not as quick as Lando was in the race, but he managed to secure a P2. So who cares? He scored points. Great race for McLaren. Charles had a decent race. Didn't really have much problems. George did well. I mean, not as good as Kimi, but Kimi kind of screwed himself due to the track limits penalty. And yeah, Gasly was there, P7 or P8, whatever it was. So yeah, that's about it for the sprint. Now let's get into the qualifying. Now this was so interesting. Max was like P1 or P2 throughout. I mean, I was so sure that okay, Max is back. He was just, giving everybody a 50-60 point head start because, to keep things interesting. But I mean, yeah, the race didn't go that well for Max, but we'll get there. So, yeah, let's talk about race qualifying. So, in Q1, Bortoleto didn't really get to start his car, and when he did, He didn't really place good time in, so he was like 21st or 20th, something like that. Cadillac got out, Aston Martin got out, and Arvid got out. Arvid was not having a great race either, so he was out of points, disqualified in the sorry, messing it up. He didn't finish in the sprint race, no points in his Q1 as well, and neither in the free practice. So yeah, Arvid didn't have a great race as well. Williams managed to get into Q2, but they got out. Haas got out, and Lawson also got out, and Hulkenberg got out in Q2. And by the way, Oscar was so close to getting out in Q1. Like, if any of the bottom 5 or 6 drivers would have, managed to surpass him, he would have been out, but it gave him some advantage because Oscar had saved his tires, soft ones for the Q3 now, but he didn't really get to, put in a good time. He was like at P7 or something, but yeah, still. So that happened. So the first four of the, qualifying teams were like Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, and McLaren. The four big teams. They were all in the top four. And Kimi was P1, Max P2. Kimi pulled a Max on Max here because during it was like last few seconds in Max was at P1 and Kimi put in the fastest time and got P1. So that was quite good. You know, uh, I am no race expert or anything. I'm just someone who enjoys watching F1. But I think Kimi might just be the next Max because he's so quick. He does quite well in the qualifying and even the race as well. He has time and time again proven that he can defend his place and he's quite quick. Now, yes, he does have the advantage of having Mercedes, but come on, he's like out qualifying and outperforming George Russell. He's like 20 points ahead of him. So, and he's just 19. So I feel like Kimi is doing quite well. So yeah, that happened. Then McLaren wasn't doing that well in the qualifying, but I mean, they bounced back in the race. Come on, like Oscar came third from P7, which is quite nice. So yeah, Oscar was P7. Hajar got disqualified. He was like P9, but his floorboard was like 2 mm bigger than it should have been. So yeah, he got disqualified again. Not great for Hajar. Second seat cars might just be catching up to him. Didn't do great in free practice. Nothing in qualifying. Missed out points in like by one position. Now in the qualifying, even after being P9, he got disqualified due to no fault of his own, by the way. The floorboard was a bit bigger. So yeah, that happened. Gabby's car troubles and yeah, even Nico got out in Q2. So Audi were having their own problems. And even when the first Q1 was finished and Gabby was bringing his car in, his car also caught fire. So yeah, that happened. Uh, then yeah, Haas didn't do well either. Like they were in the top 10 in the last few races, but in this one they got out in Q2, and I don't think they were in the points in the race as well. So Haas might be falling off because they had a Ferrari engine which was helping them, but now the other teams have brought in their upgrades, and yeah, it's like as I said in the previous video, it's as much of as ingenious sport as its drivers because a team might be lagging behind and they bring in upgrades and they are on par with the leading team. Like, I mean, it's not as crazy as a driver is like 100 points behind the race leader and somehow manages to catch up to him and loses by 2 points. That might not happen, would it? So yeah, the upgrades do help a lot. And yeah, Haas being a second team might not be that well. So yeah, that happened again. Arvid didn't do much. He got out in the Q3. So yeah, I guess that's all for race qualifying. Now let's talk about the race. This was a fun race. I really enjoyed it. Oh my God. Like the start, the overtakes, everything. It was so fun. So this race was supposed to happen like 3 hours later, around like 1:30 a.m. where I'm from. But it got pushed back to 10:30 p.m. because first of all there was heavy thunderstorm and rain chances. So they avoided it, and the intense urge to make money of people, so F1 won't just let that go. So many celebrities attend these things because this one, especially in America. So yeah, Colin Farrell, Terry Crews, Jimmy Fallon, whatnot. So yeah, the race was supposed to be at 1:30, but they pushed it back. So yeah, that happened. And oh, I just missed that Racing Bulls had a livery change, and Mercedes had another, banger outfit. No, I don't mean it. I said it ironically. It was so dog shit. Like, what are they doing? The previous race they had like that wolf outfit, and now this Cadbury outfit. What are they doing, man? Come on, you guys are leading the race. The Mercedes, I mean the general outfit. It's not extraordinary, but it's still pretty good. It's better than what they are doing to themselves. So yeah, that was there. Now talking about the race. So let's get into it. And by the way, disclaimer, I might miss a few things because so much has happened in this one that uh, it's most probable that I will miss a lot of things, but I'll try to cover most of it. So yeah, the race start insane. Like Max and Kimi had a good start, but Max went into block Norris, I guess, and Charles got ahead of him, and basically Max had a spin, and he managed to get the car out. And by the way, Max was at fault for the spin, but the way he managed to get out, and by the way, he got so lucky because like it was the first corner, it was so easy that he could have been in a crash and been dis DNF'd. But yeah, he managed to get out. He had fallen to like P10, 12, something like that, and then he later on pitted during the first safety flag and like around lap 9, 10 or something like that, and went all the way with those hard tires. So yeah, Max had a decent race. I mean, I would have loved to see him on the podium because, come on, I mean, once Mercedes brings their upgrades, it's most likely that the other drivers won't see the podium anytime soon. But I was really hopeful that Max might get this. I mean, he did well, no doubt about that. I was just hoping that he would have been on the podium. But anyways, that's just me. So yeah, Hulkenberg retired the race. He had again issues with his car. As I said, Audi has had a really bad week. They didn't score any points, had a lot of car trouble. They couldn't start the car in the race. So yeah, that happened. Hajar crash. Oh my God. So basically, he just kind of struck the wall and lost balance and basically crashed. And while this was happening, Gasly had a crash somewhere else that was also very insane. The car like flipped once or twice. So yeah, but he was all right. Nothing really happened to him. Then this happened due to Lawson because they touched tires. So yeah, Lawson also retired later on, which he might get a penalty for in the next race. By the way, I feel this is so awful that they are just, the decision will be after the race. Why? I mean, if you give a penalty, you can deal with it during the race. But once you are like giving the penalties after the race, the drivers can't do anything about it. So I feel like that's not really great. But yeah, I can't change anything. So Max was under investigation, so the points might change. But for now, Max qualified at ended the race on fifth position. So yeah, moving on. Hamilton had some damage in the first lap, but he still managed to compete with Russell during the first few laps and still got P7 by the way, which is not bad. After getting damaged in the first lap, he was like, I don't know how I can keep driving this car, but he managed to get it over the line. So yeah, that happened. And now while Max is in the midfield, Carlos had a crash out that was hilarious. He's like, just because he's in the midfield, he thinks the rules don't apply to him. And Max was, quite a bit on the throttle, trying to cover the, you know, distance he has gotten back. Basically, he was trying to climb up the position, and he was a bit, aggressive with it maybe. But yeah, that happened. Then we see Antonelli masterclass. I mean, he had a good start. He didn't make any big mistakes. He kept, Norris behind like the whole way through. And at times Norris was quite close, like point 0.5 second, point 0.2 seconds, but he managed to keep him behind. And guys, this is like a 19-year-old defending against the world champion who has had who had won the sprint race just a day ago. So, he did a quite good job, and yeah, he won the race as well. Leclerc had a spin, in the final laps. That was insane. Like, dude, and how did he manage to get out of it? Like, he spun the car and still not, put it in the wall. So that's great. Even though he would be investigated as well, a lot of investigation is happening actually. So like Leclerc, did he break too many? Did he go off limits? Then was George moving under braking? Was Max at fault at the pit stop? And lots of things, So the points might change by the morning. So yeah, we'll see what happens. So yeah, that happened. Then we see. Uh, all right. Yeah. So let's see who were in the points. So Kimi was P1, Lando P2, Oscar P3. So by the way, great for McLaren. I mean, they thought that they could have won it, but still P2 and P3. Come on, that's great. George Russell P4. So he managed to pass Max in the final few laps. So Max tires were like 40 laps old, and the tires were degrading, even though he did manage to, you know pass Charles, but it was more of Charles' fault rather than Max uh, tire management, because after he spun, he lost his momentum. Russell passed him and Max passed him. So yeah, George was at fourth, which it's pretty good, but he is still in a Mercedes, and even he said in the press conference that these low grip tracks don't work that well for him. So we are kind of getting, previous season vibes again, because see, Charles is catching up. He's like 17 points behind George, and if he catches up, then it will be like team orders and all those stuff all over again. So yeah, let's see what happens. Then Max at P5, which is not bad actually, but I would have liked him at least P4, but we'll see what happens. Charles at P6, Lewis P7, call up into P8, Carlos P9, and Albon P10. So Williams in the point. Great week for Williams. They brought some upgrades and shed some weight off their car, so they are doing decent. They are in the midfield still, but better than how they were at the beginning of the Grand Prix. I mean the season. What am I even talking about? I apologize. It's like 2 a.m. right now. I mean, even though I have been only recording for half an hour. Yeah. So, my mind is quite scrambled right now, so forgive me for that. And moving on. Haas didn't score any points, and yeah, Mercedes didn't bring any big upgrades. They had like one or two, but nothing really big. I think they are planning to bring their upgrades in Canada, which is the next race, which will be in 3 weeks. So yeah, that happened. Cadillac was still backmarker. Their upgrades are not working that well for them. Or maybe they would have improved their time, I don't know. But yeah, Aston Martin managed to finish the race, which is insane because wow, I mean, imagine, keeping your hands on a vibrator for 2 hours. That would be crazy. But yeah, they managed to finish their race. Oscar Piastri had a good race. He managed to climb from P7 to P3, which is quite good. Uh, he overtook Charles, which was like the longest battle, and I think he had to overtake George as well. So yeah, McLaren was quite good in this one. Then moving on to George Russell having issues with his car as well. Although at the end he was like, I feel much better with the car right now. But then he had like the wheel touch or whatever with Max, so he had some damage. So yeah, and he's like P4 and Kimi was P1. So I don't think he would be very happy with how the points table is looking right now. But yeah, that happened. Slow pit stop for Ferrari, nothing new, although it was not exclusive to Ferrari, I think, because the pit stop, I guess the right rear one kept getting stuck. Yeah, that happened. And Max won the Driver of the Day award, which does not, grant you any points or anything. But it's basically like, I think everybody knows, but it's like audience voting for the best driver of the day. So he got that, but he had lost like three position and he still won that. So yeah, that's fun. So a lot of stuff will be under investigation. We'll know by the morning or like a few hours or whatever. The WDC standings currently are like Kimi Antonelli at 100 points, George at 80, Charles at 63, Lando at 51. He had crossed Lewis, who is at 49, which is like almost half of Kimi Antonelli's. Then we have Oscar at 43 and Max at 26. And Isaac is at 4 right now, if any of you are wondering. He out-qualified Max in the first two races, I think, and yet he had some issues and whatnot. So, I mean, Isaac is not having fun in Red Bull right now because he's not a bad driver. We have seen him in Racing Bulls. He did quite well, but he's just not, you know, the things are not working out for him right now. Hopefully, they do soon. And yeah, that's about it. The Constructors' Championship, obviously, it's Mercedes, then it's Ferrari and McLaren, followed by Red Bull. I mean, I was quite close. I was like Red Bull, then McLaren, but still good enough. It's quite hard to predict these things, and it's basically, you don't know what upgrades the team might bring and what mistakes the other teams can make. So there are a lot of ifs, but who knows? Let's see what happens. I really enjoyed this race, and I will be waiting for the next one. Let me know if I missed anything, and yeah, that that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.